Hey there, We Can't Wrestle podcast listeners. If you haven't noticed, we have switched our server to Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Highly recommended by me and everybody else here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
You're listening to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Now it's time for our host, Kate Manson.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxon, your host, here with you, and I am joined by my co-host. Of course, my brother Aaron is here.
Hello.
And the one and only Archie Mitchell is here as well. Hello, sir.
Woo! Thank you for having me again, guys. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. This week's show, we are going to do a couple of things here. We have all sat through and watched the UWF Beach Brawl 1991 pay-per-view. For those of you that are not familiar with the UWF, it was a promotion run by a crazy man named Herb Abrams in the early 1990s. It was on Sports Channel America for a while. They did some pay-per-views. When Aaron first suggested we do the UWF pay-per-view, I was actually thinking he was going to say the Blackjack Brawl, which is like an acid trip for professional wrestling.
Yeah.
This pay-per-view, the Blackjack Brawl, I think, was in 93. This pay-per-view is in 91, and I didn't think it. We'll get to the gist of the thing. I didn't find it to be terrible. I know it sounded
was not terrible, Nate. It was. The matches were well booked.
Mm-hmm.
It was everything going on before, after, and around the matches that was bad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And Herb wanting to be front and center at all times.
For those of you that don't know Abrams' story, crazy wrestling promoter, and let me just describe for you the Wikipedia account of his death. This is for our younger fans who may not know this. Abrams died on July 23rd, 1996 of a heart attack while in police custody. Before his death, police had found Abrams in his Manhattan office naked and covered in baby oil, destroying furniture with a baseball bat.
We've all been there.
Abrams' autopsy showed he had cocaine and Valium in his system when he died. So Abrams had a wacky last night in his life.
If I'm not mistaken, his face was also covered in cocaine, almost looking like he had makeup on. That's how much cocaine he had done up until the police got there.
Well, if you read the summary of UWF, the reason that they actually went out of business wasn't necessarily that business was terrible. They didn't do great business. They went out of business literally because of his cocaine habit. Like his cocaine habit broke his company.
I hope my kids ain't in earshot, but he spent all his money on cocaine and strippers.
Yeah,
but the bad kind of strippers, the ones that would go with you to your bedroom afterwards, you know,
and do the cocaine with you.
Right,
yeah,
right.
We've all been there.
You know, I watch. I don't know if you've ever seen Wrestling with Regret with Brian Zane on YouTube.
A couple of times, yeah.
And he does a UWF special where he talks about Herb Abrams and everything. And, like, this guy literally got coked up and walked up to Stephen Dunn from Well Done. Because that was one of their big stars. And he's like, Stephen, we're going to do a storyline where you're going to be sleeping with my wife and I caught you and I'm going to be trying to get revenge on you. And Stephen Dunn's like, are you sure you want to do this, Herb? I mean, your wife's a nice woman. She, brings catering and everything like that. I don't want to besmirch her name or anything like that. And Herb's like, don't worry about it. So he's like, okay, no problem. So somewhere in between the taping, Herb goes out and does more cocaine, comes back completely pulling an Ultimate Warrior. He's freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get to the ring, instead of cutting a promo, he just falls off and punches Steven Dunn in the face. For real. And then when they get back, Dunn's like, why did you punch me? We were supposed to do the story. Mm-hmm. And Herb's like, for a split second, I actually believed you slept with my wife, so I just didn't know what to do.
And Herb's lucky he didn't get screwed up, because for those that may just know Steven Dunn from the WWF as
he was a
part
fighter.
of Well Done, he was Steve Dahl. He was a Southern professional wrestler, so
right.
he would have if he wanted to, he probably could have whooped Herb's ass pretty quickly.
Without a doubt.
And yeah, so here we go. UWF Beach Brawl 1991, June 9th, 91, Palmetto, Florida, at the Manatee Civic Center. What a name for an arena. With a booming crowd of 550 people.
But they made it look like a ton of people in the audience.
They did. They really did. It looked like one of those like early 80s Starcades.
Right.
The UWF Beach Brawl from the Sea Cow Center.
Yeah,
No. My first impression is the opening promo and beginning of the show was way too long. It took 10 minutes before we even knew what was going on.
Oh yeah, the opening video.
Yeah.
It's like Bam Bam Bigelow. He's from Asbury Park, New Jersey. His parents grew up. It was like, God damn, is this entrance video ever going to end?
Right. And then all of a sudden they get onto the show and they immediately kick it to a promo from Bam Bam and Steve Williams. It's like, can we at least see the announcers for 2 minutes just to know who's announcing the show?
Just so you know, folks, the announcers of the show are Craig DeGeorge. Craig DeGeorge, who
WWF fame.
Yeah, worked in the WWF in late 87 through 1988 and was replaced by Sean Mooney pretty much.
Yeah, he was pre-Mooney.
Yeah, pre-Mooney. And Bruno, I'll tell you, San Martino, because how many times did Bruno say, I'll tell you, during this pay-per-view?
And the fucked up part about Bruno being involved in this, okay? And I don't want to disparage a legend and a guy that, I don't want to disparage his name or anything like that, but the show's kind of the hypocrisy of some people in the professional wrestling industry, because he's like, Vince McMahon in the WWF's just a circus, and it's just a drug-fueled circus.
Right.
This guy is at the UWF.
Right.
The owner of the company is a drug-fueled circus.
Like, you're literally getting paid with drug money. Like,
right.
I'll tell you.
If he got paid at all. He got paid at all. I mean, see that Bruno had such
those crisp $700 bills he gave Bruno at the end of the night were probably rolled up earlier and used to snort cocaine through.
Herb, what is this white dust? What is this exactly?
I found sugar on my hundreds. I'll tell you.
What is this white dust on this money? Don't worry about it, Bruno.
Bam Bam Bigelow is going to be in the main event of this show against Steve Dr. Death Williams for the UWF Sports Channel TV title.
Yes.
And Bam Bam cuts up. Do they ever, like, this guy's name is Frank. Do they ever say Frank's last name on this show?
No.
Because even when he's doing the ring announcing, George is just like, let's go to Frank. So apparently Frank owed the mob money or something. He didn't want his last name on the show.
He owed Herb money.
He owed Herb money.
Where he was.
Even though he's at his show in his ring. Bam Bam cuts a promo, and I have to say, this promo actually made me laugh because Bam Bam says something about winning a title will get him more money. And when you get more money, you get happy. It was like,
it's true.
Like he didn't even say mo money, mo happy. He just said, when you get mo money, you get happy.
This is my problem with, I guess he was a tweener in the UWF because Bam Bam really wasn't a face or a heel. Mm-hmm. And neither was Dr. Death, by the way. They were both playing, faces for this match. But face Bam Bam doesn't come off that well. Think of the lead up to Bam Bam versus Lawrence Taylor for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Bam Bam was a monster. You know what I mean? And you were like, okay, believable. I think he can kick Lawrence Taylor's ass. But Bam Bam here was like he was playing a cartoon character.
The only place Bam Bam was ever decent as a face, I think, was ECW. And it was because because in ECW as a face he didn't change himself at all.
Right. He was just being himself.
Yeah.
There really weren't any heels or faces in ECW unless they came out and said, F Philadelphia, the fans here suck. You know what I mean? Everybody could have been a face in ECW. So, but
Aaron, any thoughts on the Bam Bam promo here, Aaron?
No, it was just, the guy wasn't lying. He was telling the truth.
Yeah. When you get more money,
makes you happy.
You get happy.
Now, Nate, I have a quick question about Steve Williams and Terry Gordy. Gordy. This was after they won the NWA and WCW tag team titles, isn't it?
No,
this is before.
This is before.
They had that run in 92.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to see Dr. Death and Barry Gordy together. Barry Gordy maybe doing some music for him. I don't know.
Maybe. You never know. You never know.
His promo is unintelligible as usual. Dr. Death, badass wrestler, terrible promo. Never a good promo.
He always needed someone next to him with like cue cards, just so the fans at home knew what he was saying. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he would get the first 5 words would be like, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to, and you'd be like, okay, what? But it's Steve Williams, so you're like, okay, he's going to kick ass. All right, great. There should have been like Harvey Wimpleman next to him with like cue cards that Steve would like you all to know he's going to beat his opponent. And then the next one, Steve would like you all to know that he's going to go massive in the ring tonight. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Anything on the Dr. Death promo, Aaron?
Well, my thing is, like you guys are saying, like Dr. Death, not much of a promo or anything like that, but then they got the captain.
Right.
Like, why not let the captain be with Dr. Death?
Right.
Yeah.
You got like one of the worst promo guys in the business, but also one of the best promo guys in the business.
Definitely.
Yeah. Put them together.
Captain Lou delivers a line in a little while that once we get to it, I absolutely loved. It was the line of the night for me.
Mm-hmm. My favorite Captain Lou Albano is early 80s, him managing the Samoans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. He'd be like, tonight, the Samoans... Like, he wasn't speaking Samoan. He wasn't speaking any kind of... It was just ridiculous, and he was so great. Like, I don't know.
He was talking in tongues. The Holy Spirit got into him.
Albano, one of the guys that people always say in the locker room and stuff, was just so annoying, but so entertaining.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So our opening match is the Blackhearts.
Yes.
Against Firecat and Jim Cooper. You know, that totally makes sense.
Now, Firecat eventually becomes Battlecat.
Yes.
He was Battlecat first.
Okay, so this was after GWF and
the WWF.
Okay.
Yeah, he couldn't be Battlecat anymore, so he become Firecat. And Brady Boone was fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That is Brady Boone. I thought
That's what I'm saying. Like, Brady Boone is fucking awesome. And just no company ever wanted Brady Boone to just be Brady Boone. I mean, he was just the guy came around like 3 or 4. I shouldn't even say 3 or 4. Probably 5, 6 years too early.
And apparently, we've found out now why he left the WWF, because they would not hire his good friend Jim Cooper. You know, you guys are missing the boat on Jim Cooper here. He's my boy.
Like, I've been hanging with Mr. Cooper for years over here.
Good early 90s reference there.
Right. And then he leaves and he's like, screw you guys, we'll go to the UWF. That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And then, no, wait, where did we go?
I'll tell you. Bruno calls Luna. Luna, of course, comes out here with the Black Hearts. Obviously, her husband is one of them.
Yes.
Which I was only 3 weeks ago that I found out from you guys that was David Heath, a.k.a. Gangrel, a.k.a. the Vampire Warrior, under one of those masks.
Yeah.
And then they come out, and it takes forever for them to come out. and they finally get in the ring, and they go do their fire gimmick, and they fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They try to do it later, too, and fuck it up. Like, they fuck it up twice in this pay-per-view.
Bruno's going on and on about how attractive Luna is.
Well, at first he goes, "This Luna, she's a rough gal."
Yep.
I'll tell you.
I'll tell you right.
About it later.
and then he's just like, she's a very attractive woman. And I'm like, Bruno, you're like the fourth person in the world that thinks that she's an attractive woman.
I always thought that was funny about Bobby. Bobby with Luna would always be like, "Look at her. She's a vision of beauty. Yep. Look at her, Monsoon. I don't know what you're looking at, Heenan."
She won Miss Wisconsin.
Now, Nate,
go ahead.
Believe it or I didn't realize till after they won, the Blackhearts came out to Deep Purple, Remember My Name, which is the same song that Shane Douglas uses in ECW.
Yes. And I didn't mention at the beginning of the show. Sorry, folks. We are going to have a quick top 5 at the end of the show too about our personal 5 favorite non-wrestling company produced entrance themes.
Definitely.
You mentioned that, but anyway.
Well, yeah, I was segueing. I was trying to do your job. I was segueing.
Oh no, that's okay. they came out to Perfect Stranger from Deep Purple.
That's what it's called, right?
And yeah, and like Aaron said, their entrance, like I think they came out, they ran the whole song, for Christ's sake. It took them forever to come out. And
who the fuck you think you are, Sandman? Get your ass in there. Shit going.
Well, the Blackhearts go over on Firecat and Mr. Cooper here.
And it wasn't a terrible match, Nate.
It wasn't
bad.
It was too long, though.
It was.
But, I mean, both teams got in offense. Both teams got in where they cut the ring off. A couple times, Cooper tried to make the save, which wasn't bad. It was a standard tag team matchup for an opening. It could have been worse. We could have gotten a 20-minute speech from Roman Reigns. You know what I mean?
We might name this show "Tagging with Mr. Cooper."
I like it. Or I'll tell you.
I'll tell you.
And honestly, I know they fucked up their little fire thing and all that, but like, if they would have tweaked it a little bit,
mm-hmm.
the Blackhearts could have been a decent like opening mid card like WWF or WCW tag team.
Oh yeah, just get them kind of a. They would have to have a more, I guess I'd say marketable or recognizable masks. Well, but other than that, yeah, you're right. They could
have put white on the mask or something just to make it.
It wasn't a bad little gimmick.
No,
not at all.
Except after this match, they go to this out of nowhere promo with them, right? Like it's just all of a sudden there they are, and Luna's screaming, and that guy, I don't know if it was Heath or what's his name, but he's going.
Ah! Yeah, it's both of them. They're both doing it. Like that's what I'm saying. Like there's elements of the gimmick that are all right, but if they would have got to like the WWF, it would have been like, hey, you know that banshee thing that you do? Don't do that anymore.
Don't do it during the match, not in a.
No, don't. You're not a banshee. You're a Blackheart.
And if you can't manage your fireball, leave it at home.
Right.
But yeah, you're right.
You know how many times I've told that to my buddies around here? You can't manage the fireball, leave it at home.
Leave it at home. Good, decent opening tag match. Like Aaron said, it went a little too long, but there was nothing offensive.
No.
Here.
And they had to wait. If you notice, they had to waste a lot of time between the match and then the Banshee promo.
Yeah.
Like they were just on the ring forever. So like there must have been some kind of technical shit because Crazy George is killing time.
That's why I said it reminded me. That's why I said it reminded me of those old NWA Starcades, because Starcade would have those moments where it's just they're just panning the whole arena, the dark arena with the lit up ring in the middle.
Right.
And I mean when I think about the NWA, like a vision of the NWA, that's what I think of, is that dark arena with the.
But for all we know, Nate and Aaron, this might have been what Herb wanted. He might have wanted to give off that NWA feel. So there might not have been no technical difficulties. It might have just been Herb going, hey, the NWA got away with this for years. Let's do it too. You know? Because that's what he kept. He wanted he always said it was a throwback to the better days of wrestling and restoring history, as opposed to it being the WWF or WCW, which the Attitude Era was still a couple of years away, so it made no sense why he was trying to go back to the better days of wrestling. You know?
Well, he didn't. But the next match is a street fight. We got Terry Bam Bam Gordy against Johnny Ace, Mr.
Now,
John Laurinaitis.
This is what struck me odd. I've watched UWF before. I guess I missed this part. I didn't know that Johnny Ace was in the UWF.
And if you want to know why this match is going on, figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah, they show us that they had a brawl somewhere else, and then all of a sudden they just had a street fight.
And Johnny Ace is supposed to be like the face of this match and one of like the big faces on the show. And Craig DeGeorge is like, he's getting a so-so reaction as he comes out.
Right. But yet Terry gets this big pop.
Yeah, he's just like, Johnny Ace getting a so-so reaction. Like, he's just pointing out that nobody gives a shit about Johnny Ace.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
And he also, at one point during the match, Gordy gives Johnny Ace a nice haymaker, and Craig DeGeorge says he's on Queer Street.
Yeah, the whole thing is he used to be from Bad Street, but now I think he's moved to Queer Street.
That basically means these guys had no script. They were just winging it. I mean, Bruno always winged it, but
I have tried. All right, I never liked the Dynamic Dudes tag team in WCW.
Right.
Can I say this about the Dynamic Dudes?
Sure.
I think they would have been, because Johnny Ace wasn't terrible. It really wasn't.
Go ahead, and then I'll go where I was going.
Shane was really good, especially when he was younger. If they would have been something other than like something they weren't, like if they would have just been a tag team,
right,
and not given like a skater gimmick, I think they would have been all right.
Right, I have to agree with you because I watched a promo of theirs and they did like they showed their vignette of them, and I'm like, okay, so Shane's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I think Johnny was from Atlanta, Georgia. Where did they get the surfer dudes gimmick from? Like just because they had blonde hair, they're like, you guys are surfers, okay?
And you're dynamic.
And you're dynamic, right? You know what I mean? It's like
that was the Jim Herd era.
But then they stuck him with Jim Cornette, which would have been great, except Cornette got back the Midnight Express. So it's like now you got two tag teams. One of them wants to be a heel, one of them wants to be a face. Mm-hmm. And then the stupidity was they made the Dynamic Dudes the heel in the actuality of it all.
Yeah, it was dumb.
What?
But what I was going to say was I have had people tell me in the past, go check out some of Johnny Ace's stuff from Japan. And I have. And I was not impressed. I have to say, I am not a fan of Johnny Ace. And I was not a fan of this match. I like Terry Gordy, but I was just not a fan of this match.
I'm going to make a statement that might hurt a lot of people's feelings. I know we probably have a ton of listeners who love Japanese wrestling. I love Japanese wrestling. I'm not going to say I don't. But pretty much any United States wrestler who goes to Japan makes a big splash. Mm-hmm. Case in point, Albert. He went there and actually became a 4-time tag team champion. Was on the verge of becoming a world champion had WWE not re-signed him.
And got over with the name Giant Bernard.
Bernard, right? And you know what I mean. But yeah, Terry Gordy and Steve Williams killed it in Japan. Mm-hmm. And I know you don't agree, but Omega killed it in Japan too. Yes, there are certain people who have better careers in Japan than they do in the United States. But saying Johnny Ace had great matches in Japan is like saying the Great Muta had great matches in the United States. Muta had great matches everywhere.
And for our younger...
Ace, not so much.
Yes, and to speak to Terry Gordy and Steve Williams, for our younger listeners that may not have seen, you need to watch Terry Gordy and Steve Williams wrestle the Steiner brothers. You need to watch those matches.
Watch that whole tournament.
Yeah, those are some of the those two teams, some of the best, most hard-hitting, amazing tag team matches ever.
Nate, I know you watch old stuff too. Same way I do, Aaron. I know you do too. The NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament that I was speaking about earlier. When Gordy and Williams walk into the scene, as the announcers are saying that the tag team that the Steiners are supposed to face got beat up in the parking lot, and I think Gordy's got a tire iron and Dr. Death's got mud on his face, and they're laughing, and all they say is, I guess somebody else is going to have to face the Steiners in the finals. And then they just walk off. They said so little bit, but did so much in that one instance.
Made so much happen, yes, absolutely.
You know? And then they went on and beat the Steiners for everything. They took the title, both tag titles from them, and became instant success in WCW.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So this match, I don't know. Again, it's kind of a fuck finish. They fight to the outside. Even though it's billed as a street fight, it still gets a double DQ or some kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's a no disqualification, no count out street fight that ends in a count out.
In a disqualification.
Right. Vince was booking this.
And then they have
Russo.
Then they have the absolute worst outside of the ring brawl that has ever happened.
Yeah, they were going.
They're literally walking around just locked up.
Yep. And every now and then they split them apart, and then they get 100 feet from each other, and then they stagger back to each other
and just lock up again.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that both of these guys were like, "Fuck it," like they get to the building. It's like, "Hey guys, are gonna have a no disqualification, no count out street fight." It's like, "Okay, well, what's the finish? You guys gonna get counted out and disqualified?"
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Let's just do it. Let's just do it.
We'll have the entire street fight in the ring, and then we'll just lock up for 10 minutes outside.
Yeah, we'll have a wrestling match on the outside of the ring.
Right.
That'll get us disqualified. Yeah.
Hey Terry, what Johnny? Did Herb pay you? No. Fuck it. We're doing this. We're doing this.
Up next is a tag team match. The Power Twins.
Nate?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay, the Power Twins.
Against
what is mass confusion?
It's not the Killer Bees.
Yeah. What is
mass confusion? Which is what they called their mask, their little trickery they did in the WWF, where they put on the mask. Now their trickery is apparently the name of their tag team. Mask.
They were not always the Killer Bees. I understand they can't use the name because they're WWF, but they could have just been known as the Bees.
Something.
And they were still dressed in the black and yellow attire with the black and yellow mask. I mean,
the other problem is too that the mask thing didn't even work for me in the WWF because B. Brian Blair was actually in shape.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Brunzell was like a Bobby Eaton or whatever. He's an athlete, but he's like chubby. He's like chubby. He's like chubby in shape. You know what I mean? So it's like even wearing the masks, it doesn't work because you can still tell. And they put the masks on during the match, and then San Martino and DeGeorge are still like, "Oh, what?"
Say that again.
I'm sorry. Like during the match, they get into the mask spot, and they're still calling them by who they are.
Right.
And Bruno totally oversells the mask confusion too.
Right.
He's like, "Oh my goodness! Oh, mamma mia! That's a spicy meatball! I tell you, he is totally overselling the mask confusion."
Now must have watched this show to get his announcing ability.
now these Power Twins, okay.
I like them.
I didn't know a lot about the Power Twins till like a couple of years ago because, and now I'm not trying to put over another podcast, but there's a podcast called The Wrestling Spotlight with John Arezzi.
Mm-hmm.
And the Power Twins are on there, and these motherfuckers, especially David Power, they're fucking funny. Like, these guys, like, I don't know if you listen to that podcast, Arch, but you should give it a listen.
I will give it a listen. I have no problem listening to it.
Like, David Power, he's fucking funny. Like, he busts people's balls left and right. If, like, a caller calls in, he'll just make fun of him right there on the like, these guys should have These guys should have got a chance somewhere else.
I have that written down in my notes there, and I said I don't understand how we didn't see them in a WCW or a WWF, even as a jobber tag team. It still would have been great to see these guys get a shot somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know why they have,
look.
Yeah, I don't know why they have fly swatters though.
I don't.
I noticed that they came out with fly swatters. They explained. I know. I think I get it now.
What? Swatting their opponents away?
I get why they have fly swatters now.
So why?
It's because they were fighting Mass Confusion, who used to be the Killer Bees.
Ah.
Why did it take me? I watched this like a week ago, and all week I've been thinking, like, why did the Power Twins have fly swatters? It took me 7 days and about 8.5 hours to figure out why those motherfuckers have fly swatters.
So
we forgive you. You've been working a lot.
So what you're saying is...
I know, but I've been at work, like, putting shit out. Like, why do the Power Twins have fly swatters?
That was Aaron's status starting Monday on Facebook. Why did the Power Twins have fly swatters? People are leaving in the comment, what?
And it was just like, okay, it shouldn't have taken me that long.
Now, I'd like you guys to know, I called the 900 number in the commercial that happened after this match. I didn't hear Beach Brawl, but I heard something that sounded like 90s porn. So it's still active if you want to give it a call.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Archie. Not the 90s porn, but I actually, anybody that listens to this show knows, because we talk about the Asylum, we talk about World Championship Customs, we talk about our love of collecting a lot on this show.
Yep.
And I'm also a collector of magazines and programs and stuff. And right. I actually, just because I wanted to have one, just because for the fun of it, I actually went on eBay while I was watching this show and looked up to see if I could get that program they were selling for $5 for this thing.
Right.
Nobody has one on eBay. You know what that means? Nobody bought one.
Well, it's funny you should say that.
They're in that. I know where they're at.
In Herb Abrams' garage.
No, they're in that. They're in that. That ET landfill.
No, it's funny you should say that. I mailed a $5 money order and a $19.95 money order to Herb Abrams for the Beach Brawl program and the video of this whole pay-per-view. I'll let you guys know if it comes in the mail. Nate, you could have the program.
That would be fucking great.
Herb Abrams is actually alive.
Can you imagine I get something in the mail, though? I really did send it. And I'm like, what the fuck? What?
It's marked from the estate of Herb Abrams. Yes, we're still selling these.
With a note that says, please stop sending money. We don't want to.
Actually, the note would say, yes, we're finally selling these.
Thank you for buying one.
The next match on the show is for the UWF Women's... Hey.
Go ahead.
Mass Confusion won.
Yeah,
people know what happened.
They did.
They did win.
The next match is the UWF Women's title match. It's Rockin' Robin, who literally comes out to the oldies Rockin' Robin song.
You think Herb paid for it?
I doubt he paid for any of this music. Yeah.
Right?
No, he paid for Domino's. At the end of the thing, it says catering. Domino's.
Guaranteed he bought like 8 pies and like 3 orders of breadsticks. That was
it. We got 8 pizzas, 2 pans of bread, lots of cocaine.
Lots of cocaine. That's mine. You keep your hands off the cocaine.
Rockin' Robin is facing off against Candy Divine here. This match
He's like, hey, Candy Divine, the crust ain't the only thing getting stuffed around here. Get over here.
I will say this. See, Nate, you said that the match stunk. I thought it was a decent women's match.
I didn't like it.
But both of these girls were god ugly. There was like no redeeming quality about this match at all. And Rockin' Robin wins and then grabs the belt and starts dancing, and it's like, stop, just stop.
Well, and Bruno Sammartino goes, Candy Divine.
That's the most heel thing Archie's ever said. These women are god ugly.
They were. By 91 standards, they were horrifying. Sorry. I apologize to our female listeners.
Bruno Sammartino says, Candy Divine, I'll tell you, she's been around. He actually says it during the match. She's been around. I think he's alluding. He's trying to allude to her having,
been around a lot of territories.
And stuff. Yeah. But the way he just says, Candy Divine, I'll tell you, she's been around. And I was like, oh, Bruno, you dirty hot Bruno.
Had it been Jerry Lawler delivering that statement, we all would have been like, "Oh God!" Lawler just went off. But
actually, with Lawler, we would have been like, "Par for the course."
Right. But for Bruno, it was like, "Why, Bruno?"
I'll tell you.
I'll tell you.
So, Rocket, like Archie alluded to, Rockin' Robin wins this match. Did anybody have any other thoughts on this thing?
No.
The only thing I'll say is that every match is getting a decent amount of time. So UWF was kind of ahead of times on that. You know, that Herb actually gave everybody at least 10 minutes to make a story in the ring. And whether it was bad or not.
And it's one of those things, and I know I won't get off on a modern topic, a modern tangent. But you guys know how I feel about modern wrestling. Every match doesn't need to be 20 fucking minutes long.
I agree.
Sometimes a 3-minute match is a good thing.
Well, yeah.
You have to find a balance. You have to find a balance. You have now where every match is 20 minutes long and everybody gets to do all their spots and everything. Right. Then you have the other extreme, 1999 WWF, where every match was 3 minutes long and there were 20 matches in a 2-hour show. You have to find a balance. You have to find a balance of having some 3-minute matches, having some 15-minute matches, having a 30-minute main event.
Right.
But anyway,
sort of WCW early Nitro. The way that they packed like 5 matches into that first hour was the way it should have been. You know?
Yes.
But
the next match, I'll tell you, the next match is a strap match. It's Colonel De Beers and Paul Orndorff. Now, one funny thing, I actually laughed, like literally laughed out loud with my cat sitting next to me because I watched this. Nobody else was in the house when I watched it. Craig DeGeorge goes, "We have a strap match coming up here. Bruno, have you ever been in a strap match?" Bruno doesn't say anything. Doesn't answer the question, doesn't say no, doesn't say yes, and then it's just quiet, and then Craig DeGeorge goes, "All right, let's take a look."
But it's quiet for like 60 seconds, so Bruno completely checked out.
He's like, "I won't tell you."
No, I think Bruno might have gotten like overly involved somewhere else. Like he was looking at the crowd.
Either that, or he wanted to look at him and be like, "Why the fuck
would you
be in a strap match?"
Why would I be in a strap match? I used to fight Antonio Rocca.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I sat there and looked at the cat and was like, "I'll tell you, that's funny."
I'm like, wow, he really isn't giving his partner anything here. Like, he didn't even go no, and then let the other guy go, "Okay, well, let's go to our promo or whatever." Right. He just let it be dead silent air for a minute.
They then show the recap for this, and nowhere in the recap is Paul Orndorff even involved in.
No.
Was there anybody more racist than Colonel De Beers?
No, and I have this in my notes and I've always thought this. For one, Colonel De Beers, the wrestler, sucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
He's no good.
But his gimmick was
pretty
damn funny.
I think I'm going to disagree. This gimmick to me is lazy, cheap garbage heat.
No. What I mean though is he's got an African American guy with him named Mr. Black, but then he's on a tangent about the referee being black for his match. You know what I mean? It made me chuckle for a split second. Like, wow, how did they let this air on any channel ever?
And De Beers, but he took this gimmick everywhere. Right. And I just always thought there's like 4 things that I don't think you need to have in wrestling, and just racism is one of them. And I just, it's cheap, gross, garbage heat.
I agree.
And the guy sucks too.
So had he been a better wrestler, would it have been okay?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, you're already offensive to me, and the fact that you're lazy as a
Right.
worker, and the only way you can get some heat is by going out there and making racist comments and shit. And I'm not saying the dude himself probably wasn't racist. I just thought the gimmick was lazy.
It was.
Here's where I will say that Cheap Heat. Okay, I am not disagreeing with you at all. All right, I hated his gimmick. He's a shitty wrestler. If I could go my whole life and never even see a Colonel De Beers match, that's fine.
Right.
But one thing I will say is there are two different. It's funny because Cheap Heat has two different. I have two different mindsets on Cheap Heat, and you guys tell me if I'm off base. And again, Aaron, I totally agree with you on a national television show. But this kind of Cheap Heat, I think, works at an indie level. Like when you go to an
be on that. It shouldn't even be on that.
When you go to an indie show, and I'm talking about any kind of Cheap Heat, like most Cheap Heat in to me, any Cheap Heat.
If you want to go out and talk about like the dirty people of
that's
Lima,
what
Ohio,
I was talking about. That's what I was
fine.
about.
Right.
But don't go out there and just.
Well, I mean, here's the difference. New Jack in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Paul Heyman, Jim Cornette says it all the time. He would tell him, go out there and incite the fans. And New Jack would walk out there and go, hey, OJ, good job, one down. You know, and that got heat. You know,
and although it's funny, I'm a and Aaron will attest to this because I'm kind of a man of two fronts on New Jack. I think New Jack as a person is probably not the greatest guy.
He's a garbage human being.
But as a pro wrestler on television, he's one of my favorites ever. Not his matches, his personality.
Right.
And the OJ good job thing, it's different.
Right.
To me.
It's not, you don't catch it the first time he says it. And then after a while you're like, wait a minute, is he talking about OJ Simpson murdering?
Man, there's really nothing.
Nothing.
There's really nothing better than watching a black guy get to rile up a bunch of fucking hillbillies anyway.
and I'll put it on its flip side. Like Colonel De Beers to me is, and I'll put it as a more even. It's still not modern. It's still old. But this is like when the Dudleys were in ECW,
right?
And they were starting to not
care,
have people give a shit about them anymore.
Right.
So Bubba was just like, "Oh, I'll just go out there and be like, your mama likes to suck cock."
Right. Or when he called guys in Miami, Florida, queer, but in a more harsher tone, and the entire audience almost rioted against him.
Yeah, it's like that. I like the Dudley Boys, but that was lazy fucking cheap heat by Bubba, and it's the same thing here.
Now,
but then, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna, unless anybody else had anything to say the Bears.
No. And this is literally, and it's not his fault. It's not his fault, but this is literally the worst Paul Orndorff match I've ever seen.
Well,
and Paul Orndorff.
Why did the referee throw the strap up and allow them to just catch it?
It was like hoogie boogie boogie.
It was like basketball. Okay, we're gonna do the jump ball. Okay, and then
the bigger question is, why did Paul Orndorff come out? You can't touch
this, right? Right.
Because you can't touch wonderful, baby.
And Orndorff was never a believable face for me. He should have been a heel, but I guess they needed a big name. But they do the jump ball for the strap. And then what did this match last? 7 minutes?
Yeah. 7 minutes too long.
Too long.
The only time Orndorff was ever good as a heel was in Mid-South, or as a face was in Mid-South.
Right.
And then he turned heel. And that made for a great heel turn.
Right.
But, yeah, you're right. I was never a big fan of Orndorff as a babyface either.
Right.
But he always wound up being a babyface because he's one of those guys like Tito. Like any startup promotion in the 90s, Orndorff was on that roster. He was there.
AWF, UWF, anything that had a W and an F in it.
He was there. Orndorff and Tito were going to be there.
And they always wanted to make him a face.
Mm-hmm.
Except one guy. and that's good old Jim Cornette, because he knew he was a professional wrestling person.
Yeah.
He knew you need Orndorff as a heel, and then Orndorff wins this thing with a pile driver.
Right.
And then as he celebrates America while listening to MC Hammer's "You Can't Touch This,"
right.
Colonel De Beers shoots him with a stun gun.
And Bruno acts like if he shot him with a 44 millimeter gun.
Yeah, Bruno's totally overselling shit on the pay-per-view.
Like, he looks a little more than he's stunned. Like, Bruno, it's a stun gun. It's supposed to. And you hear as a partner, yeah, it's a stun gun. He's supposed to look like that. No, he looks like he's dying. And I'm like, wow.
See, I wrote that sentence, and when I wrote that sentence, I was like, I know this is going to make Nate laugh. Right. As Mr. Wonderful celebrated America to you can't touch this. And Colonel De Beers shot him with a stun gun.
Only in pro wrestling, man.
Only in pro wrestling.
Fucking ridiculous.
It's the greatest show on earth. All right. So that's over with. My next note is Lou Albano is the worst interviewer ever.
No,
he doesn't even interview. He just yells at him and leaves.
Hold on. This is the line of the night. Because in walks Luna, in walks the Black Hearts, and he looks directly at them and says, I don't like her, and I don't like her team. Throws down the mic and walks the fuck out. He didn't even give a shit. He was like, nope, not going to happen.
This is stupid.
This is the stupidest thing ever. Like, this is
he wasn't even feuding with Luna and the Black Hearts, so it made no sense for him to be that upset. You know what I mean?
It was so dumb. Like, there's not a lot to say about this, folks, because nothing really happened.
That's all that happened.
Yeah, Luna and the Blackhearts came out. Albano yelled at him and left. So there you go.
I don't know who looked more shocked, the Blackhearts whose faces we couldn't see, or Luna, because they just stand there and go like, "What? What did we do?" And I
do have to say, in this segment, one of the Blackhearts tries to do the fireball spot again. Doesn't work again. They got the worst flash paper provider ever.
It's the flash paper Hulk Hogan used when he fought.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Hogan borrowed it from Luna. He was like, "Hey."
Right.
And borrow your flash paper.
She's like, I still have some left over from the Manatee Center.
Hello, Luna, brother. Yeah, Hulk. You got any more of that flash paper? As a matter of fact, I do.
It's the South Korean stuff, though. Hit and miss.
It's all right, dude.
It'll burn you before it'll burn your opponent. Oh, even better.
It's the Warrior. He won't sell it anyway.
Right.
So up next, we have another guy that always signed with any upstart promotion back in the early 90s, Ivan Koloff. And if I'm reading the what do they call that? The Chiron, right? The little
Chiron.
Thing. Chiron.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm reading that right, it's Ivan Koloff versus Bob Backlund.
Yes.
Because it was spelled Backland. Like, this guy's been around wrestling for years and years and years.
And you don't know how to spell his name.
And you can't get his fucking name right. Bob Backlund.
Right.
Undefeated world champion.
On a related note, I've been to Backland before, and it was not very fun.
Check out Front Town, man. Better.
I tried. They were closed when I got there.
And Koloff's manager, Mr. Red's a goofy-looking bastard. With his big poofy hair and his stupid suit, his stupid face.
That didn't look like a suit. It looked like a bunch of pieces of material that they just stuck on him.
He's trying to be Oliver Humperdinck.
Right.
And Oliver Humperdinck.
He's Oliver Humperdonk.
And Oliver Humperdinck wasn't even a good Oliver Humperdinck.
Right. He's like what would have happened if Percy Pringle and Oliver Humperdinck would have had a child.
Pringle Dink,
right? I think you found our name.
With his manager, Mr. Pringle Dink.
You said Pringle Dink.
I sure did.
That's when you're lonely and the only thing you got in the house is a can of Pringles. You don't get the Pringle Dink going.
Oh my god.
Oh shit. All
This
right.
was a terrible match.
Absolutely. It was.
Actually, Bob Backlund hits a goddamn impressive bridge in this
Well,
match.
no, Bob Backlund does a lot of impressive things.
No, it wasn't Backlund's fault. It really wasn't.
And Ivan Koloff is awesome.
All I keep thinking when I saw this match is, man, I want Bob to return and just go off on Bret Hart. That's all I kept thinking while I watched this match.
Like, they should have gave... I just think this match was too quick. Like, they didn't give him enough time. And I hate to say that. That's like the only thing I'm going to say on this show is like these two probably could have had an awesome match.
Oh,
Ivan Koloff's cool as fuck. Bob Backlund is a fucking genetic freak, and they gave him
ages.
They gave him like 8 minutes, if that. And like I said, Bob hits a badass bridge in this match.
If Ace and Gordy wouldn't have brawled for 15 minutes in the crowd, maybe they could have gotten more than 8 minutes. But, you know.
Now,
I'll tell you.
I'll tell you. Up next, we have some wackiness with Albano and Mr. Pringle Dink. But
yes.
He rips his pants off.
Yeah, that happens.
That was bad.
Very bad.
I literally just sat there going, wow, I didn't need to see this.
Did I just see his Pringle Dink?
How have I watched an entire pay-per-view with a guy that I'm a mark for, i.e. Lou Albano, and nothing he's done on this show I've been happy with?
Right.
Like, damn it.
Right.
Like, he didn't do his interview right. He tried to rape Pringle Dink. Terrible.
Damn it, Captain Lou. Anybody, before we get to the next tag match, anybody else think it's highly ironic that the hotline for this thing is 420 UWF? I don't know.
No, not at all.
I'm just saying.
Not at all. It worked perfectly.
Up next, we have Randy Orton, Bob Orton Jr., and Cactus Jack against Wet and Wild, who I wrote are Indie-licious.
Sunny Beach, another John Arezzi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Backpack guy.
This wasn't good. I didn't like this.
No, there was an apt description, Mr. Mitchell. This
proves my WWF theory, though. This proves my WWF theory. On people saying, like, when somebody goes to the WWF ruins them. This goes to prove my WWF theory of the fact that there's guys that might be towards the end of their career who want to make that last, like, you know, big payday.
Right. Before
they either quit or before they go back to just doing, like, regional shit like this.
Right.
John Toles, who everybody was like, oh, I can't believe that Vince finally got John Toles and brought him in and made him the coach. But what gimmick is John Toles doing on this show? Is he the Golden Greek John Toles? No, he's the motherfucking coach, and he's doing the coach gimmick. So suck it to any of them people. Like okay, the Bushwhackers. With the Bushwhackers, after they left the WWF, did they just go back to the Indies and start being the sheepherders?
No,
they went back to the Indies, and they went back as being the motherfucking Bushwhackers.
Right.
Luke was recently at a virtual asylum event, and guess who he was? He wasn't sheepherder Luke.
Nope.
He was Bushwhacker Luke.
So all them people that go, oh, the WWF, they just fuck everybody up when they used to say that. No.
To this day, people are still...
that was my little rant. Sorry.
To this day, there are people who go to indie events, and it still says, no matter how many years it's been since they got out of the WWF, formerly known as, and then their WWE or WWF gimmick. You know, so they want to be known as that character. That's where they made their most money and their biggest impact, no matter how crap it was.
Now, I'm going to be honest about this match, guys. This match lost me. Yeah. And I didn't write down the finish. I don't know why. I just like
Wet and Wild won because they used brass knucks.
Okay, and then I picked it up with Orton and Cactus having their brawl,
which again went way too long and made no sense. Except for the fact that they were trying to make Cactus Jack be crazy and fight with all his partners at this time.
Yeah, like Orton got mad that Cactus lost or whatever, and then they just had a brawl, and it was bad.
However, and I don't know, I mean, It's been a long time. There was a time, probably, I'd say, goddamn, it was probably like 5-6 years ago. Somebody had the entire run of this company on YouTube, like all their TV shows and everything, and I actually watched it. Like I don't remember that Orton and Cactus ever had a match because I think I would remember that.
No.
And the fucking like crazy part about UWF is they didn't have like a bad roster.
No. And every show wasn't awful either. Like this promotion got really bad. This pay-per-view, again, like I said, I didn't think this pay-per-view was terrible. Some of it's kind of goofy and shit, but overall it's not that bad. Like the first couple of years of this promotion weren't terrible. It was when you get into like 93, it started going off the rails.
Herb began trying to get bigger names that weren't in WWF and WCW, and he would offer them all this money. They'd want a money up front guarantee for their first appearance, and when he wouldn't give them their money, they'd not show up, and then he'd have to refund his fans their money. So it just became a shitstorm,
Yes, absolutely.
So, and not to mention, it wasn't like anybody saw the UWF as a threat, but WCW and WWF were hiring all these older guys back again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Wonderful went to WCW. Backlund went back to the WWF. So who were they going to get?
At the Blackjack Brawl pay-per-view in 93, they have this guy that I don't know anything about him before it. I don't know anything about him after it. All right. It's the opening match of that show, and this guy, he's this wacky-looking old white guy. He looks like you'd find him hanging out at the end of the bar, okay? And his name's Jack Armstrong, and he has a match with Mondo Guerrero.
Okay.
And he screws Mondo Guerrero out of this match, and his promo at the end is one of my favorite promos ever, Archie.
Aaron is busting right now.
He goes,
I know what he says.
They go, how did you outwit a Guerrero, Mondo Guerrero? And he goes, because I'm a thinker, not a stinker.
A stinker. And then he taps his head.
And I know nothing about this guy other than that one night.
He never
but Jack Armstrong, thank you. Thank you for that, because you are in my memories forever, Jack Armstrong.
That needs to be a shirt.
Even though you actually are both of those.
A thinker and a stinker. So now, before we go to our break here, we're going to talk about the main event of the show, which I really liked.
Yes.
Oh, this is the only good thing on this entire show.
But it saves it. It saves it.
You got Bam Bam Bigelow.
I'm not going to lie, guys. I watched this, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, these guys are going to be mad that I made them watch this. You're happier about it than I am.
I'm not terribly mad at you because it wasn't horrible.
No, I didn't think this show was terrible.
It certainly wasn't New York Rules.
This match, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Bam Bam Bigelow, this is one of those matches that I would say sit down someone who's not a wrestling fan,
right,
and tell them to watch this, and because these two guys are two guys that can make it look fucking real, man.
Oh yeah,
they beat the fuck out of each other,
and the use of the blood is perfect. Blood off of a headbutt. And I mean, they make it. This match looks real. It looks like they are fighting each other for a title with a chance. They both brought it.
You can tell that both of them talked about this match beforehand. They weren't just thrown out into the ring against each other. They literally sat there and said, "Okay, what do you want to do? And this is what I want to do." And it paid off.
When I watched it, part of me thought these guys were sitting in the back for 2 hours watching this and just looked at each other and like, we better go out there and fucking do something.
Right.
This fucking thing is trash.
Right. We got a chance to go up beyond the bar and be good if we go out there and put up a stellar match, and they did.
It is kind of funny that the Herb comes out and he's like, he shakes Dr. Death's hand and then he goes to shake Bammer's hand, and Bammer just punches him in the face.
Yeah.
That's for Steve Dunn.
Like he walks up, and Bammer's just like, this guy cold cocks him.
No, that was check didn't clear, motherfucker.
But yeah, this match, there's some brutal, stiff shots. And again, the realism of it. Both men blade in this match, but they do it in amazing, logical. Right. If these two guys were having a fight, like Dr. Death literally starts bleeding because Bam Bam is headbutting him.
Right.
You know, it's not some big outlandish spot with a turnbuckle pad or anything like that.
Or anything like that.
This guy's head is so hard that he headbutted me until I started bleeding above my eye.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Nate. Correct me if I'm wrong. Steve Williams didn't bleed that much in wrestling. So this was like, oh, well, this must be a tough match for him.
Exactly.
You know, he wasn't known for being
busted open. Bammer didn't bleed a lot.
Right.
He bled in this match, too.
Right. And there wasn't blood all over the pay-per-view where we could say, oh, well, they just overly used. This might be the only match there was blood, so it was used properly.
And even the build to the finish was logical.
Right.
Dr. Death trying to put the monster Bam Bam down with a few, suplex here. He did an Oklahoma. He didn't even get him with the Oklahoma Stampede.
Right.
He wound up getting him with just like an out of nowhere suplex. Gets the pin. Although when he does do the pin, George, I was going to say George to Craig to George goes, oh, he's got him in the pin. He's got him in the pin. He goes, he's got him in the pin. 3, 2. He's the champion. It was like he was counting down to him being the champion.
Yeah. And honestly, when I was talking about these guys going out there and being like, fuck it, this shit's been shit. We're going to go out there and have a good match. The other thing, and I thought about it even more as you guys were talking, and I think it's more logical, is that this is the only match that other than Backlund and Koloff, which would have just been two guys just like, let's fuck it, we're getting paid,
Right.
This is probably the only match that has two like seasoned guys that if the promoter came over and said, look, this is what we're going to do, would look at him and be like, just fuck off out of here.
Right. We got this.
We got this shit. Get the fuck out. We don't need your stupid, it's a street fight, but it's going to end in a disqualification. Get the fuck out.
Right.
Well, overall, I gave this show 2.5 out of 5 Jeff Farmer yeps. Yeah, I gave it a 2.5. I did not hate this show, Aaron. I hate that Blackjack Brawl pay-per-view. That's when they get. I mean, by then they've gone off the fucking rails. But this was actually like for a burgeoning promotion, getting its feet under it and everything, establishing a champ at the end.
Right.
There was some garbage. There was some goofy shit, and
but
yes, the finishes they weren't all ideal, but. I didn't sit there for 2 hours and whatever 15 minutes it was and hate the show. I actually enjoyed watching it.
No, I agree. I gave it a 3 out of 5, so I'm not far off with it.
Aaron's very shocked about our ratings here.
Because here's the thing. If you didn't want to watch WWF or WCW, if you didn't have an indie promotion,
you would have won it after this.
No, but it was a different alternative to what was going on in the big promotions. And this was 91, so you really didn't have any other options. So it was passable.
Yeah, 1.5. The only thing I enjoyed about this show was the main event.
But it was New York rules, bro.
All right, that being said, we are going to take our break, and when we return, what we are going to do is we are each going to let you guys know what we think are our 5 favorite.
That list too.
Yep.
What's that?
I got that list ready too. Sorry.
Yeah, me too. Our 5 favorite non-wrestling company produced entrance themes, i.e., Edge coming out to a Rob Zombie
Never Gonna
song.
Stop.
Yes. So that's coming up. We'll be right back with our shameless plugs and that after this on episode 112 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Episode 112 rolls on, And before we get into these top fives here that we're going to do about our favorite non-wrestling produced wrestling entrance themes, we're going to talk about a little bit of shameless plugs here. First of all, I want to say, for those of you who have not checked out the 2300 Pod, a part of our family of podcasts here, you need to do that. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic show, and we're chronicling week by week the history of ECW. We're watching the shows with ECW's Chad Austin, yes. Who you all heard last week on the show, make an appearance here on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And I mean, great insight from him as a worker. Great insight from him as he has worked with most of the guys that are on these shows we're watching. Right. And we're just having a great time. These early shows have been more comedic for us than anything else. But as things start to evolve, it's going to be fun to watch ECW evolve. And we want to ask you all to join us. Check it out, the 2300 Pod. Because of the uniqueness of the name, I guess, as a producer of podcasts, of these podcasts, one of the little things that I do a lot of times is I'll go and I'll just search. I'll just search for our shows.
Right.
You know, when somebody goes and searches out a wrestling podcast or what have you, how convenient is it for them to fall into finding my show? And the 2300 Pod is easy to find, folks. If you go to Spotify, iTunes, Podcast Addict, any of those apps, and you just put in 2300, it is literally the first podcast that comes up on your list.
I can attest to that.
So check it out, the 2300 Pod. Not hard to find, definitely not hard to listen to, and it's a great show. And Aaron, thank you, because it's been great so far.
Oh, no problem, man. And it's it was something that, I know it's like a lot of times like, oh, my list is the best, and all that shit. That's just joking around. Because my list always isn't the best, but this was something that. And Nate can attest to it. I was talking to him about it like for a couple of years as we were doing the We Can't Wrestle podcast. I was like, man, all of this there's like one promotion that has everything up there. And I know everything shouldn't be attached to the network or whatever, but I was like, man, this is that one company that all of it's on there. And people can watch along with this entire thing. And if we just did this ECW pod, it would be awesome. And even starting when I was thinking about it, Chad, we hadn't talked to him yet and had him on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And Chad showing up and being kind enough to go on our show at the start of it, it just kind of all
fell together.
And I think it's a really good show. It's roughly usually about an hour. It might get a little longer as ECW progresses, and we're even going to be talking about pay-per-views, so those will be a little longer, obviously. But it's an hour and a half. It's an easy listen, and it's fun. And
I assure you from our conversations in the production conversations of the show, as the show goes on, we're going to have some special guests. You may even see Kyle or Archie dip in on a show here and there as time goes on.
I'll be honest with you guys. I've been walking a lot lately because of my diet and trying to do a couple miles a day. And when I first started doing it a couple weeks ago, I was listening strictly to We Can't Wrestle because, I want to hear what it sounds, the playback of what it sounds like. I usually used to do that at night before bed or whatever. But then I saw you put up the new episode of We Can't of 2300 last week, and I put it on, and it's hearing you guys talk, and then me having it in my head about what happened, because I've seen it already, makes me want to go back and watch it to get the picture right in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And Chad is perfect as a historian, because Chad was not only wrestling these guys, but he was also in the back watching it as a fan too.
Right.
So it's you guys all three, you give enough input that makes a casual fan want to become a hardcore fan instantly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And of course, if you are not,
sorry, I was going to say the other reason we try to keep it to that, and in my head, I was like, man, let's try to keep it as like maybe an hour long or however, is you could put it on, put the show on mute, and just watch us talk about it while you watch the show.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And also, we would be remiss if we did not mention World Championship Customs.
Right now, we have got a killer custom contest that just started a couple days ago, and it is paying homage to the Survivor Series in name. 5 customizers on each team, and each guy will make a custom figure, and then they will, singles matches, basically, 1 day of voting. Whoever wins for their team gets a point. Whichever team has the most points at the ending of all the voting is your winner. We're not playing for any prizes this time. We're doing it strictly for bragging rights. Myself and Daniel Ariola are captaining one team, and Bobby Anders and Nick Laurel, who are also admin in World Championship Customs, are captaining the other team. And I have to say, I've seen my team's customs so far. I'm loving what I'm seeing, the creativity, Nate.
Mm-hmm.
When we just did a Halloween custom contest for masked wrestlers and face-painted wrestlers. And I wasn't in it, neither was Daniel. And as we were seeing everybody's contributions, it was making us want to create more. It was bringing out the creative juices. And I just kept saying, I wish we were in this. Why aren't we in this? And Daniel's like, why can't we just make something and show it? We don't have to be in the contest. I'm like, yes, you're right. And Daniel ended up making a killer, amazing Kane as his Jacob Goodnight character in See No Evil 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up making a split figure Brutus Beefcake, half Zodiac and half Megamaniacs.
Yes.
And it was like the first time I'd ever done it. It was the first time Daniel ever did something of that nature. And I just went, wow, I want to make more of these.
And it's just fun. It's fun, the creativity.
Yep.
To see what people come up with. And you can always, of course, contact Archie himself if you need a custom figure made, if there's something you want. I mean, there are figures, because of Archie Mitchell, there are figures of Aaron, me, and Kyle.
Right.
So, I mean,
Kindle, don't leave Kindle out.
And Kindle, yes. There are figures of all 4 of us because of Mr. Mitchell there.
And Chris, I promise I will begin to work on a Chris custom very soon once I have a head that matches.
He's just trying to find the hillbilly Jim head.
I was going to say he's trying to find an Eric Rowan head, but
Rowan might work, but I'd have to color the beard a little differently and give it a little bit of hair. But the funny thing about making Aaron's custom, I asked him, what head do you want me to use? He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, do you have anybody you think you look like? He's like, no. And I'm like, well, I used Randy Orton for Nate. Do you think that would be okay? You guys look similar. You think that would be okay? He's like, you're the creator. I don't give a fuck what you do. Just make one that looks like me. I think he liked it. He showed it today.
Oh, I did.
think he liked it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
But it's just, if my tagline is AJM Customs, I can make it. But if I can't make it, we have got at least 30 customizers in World Championship Customs that I know I can hook you up with, and you can get a figure made instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. And one last thing, and then we will go into our lists really quick, just to put it out there. If you're not a member of the Asylum, obviously you want to join World Championships Customs. You want to join the We Can't Wrestle podcast Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Asylum and the Virtual Asylum, you're missing out if you're a collector. Also, for the virtual meet and greets going on during the age of the COVID, to be able to get to meet your favorite wrestlers and personalities. Have a conversation.
Finished Scott Hall yesterday. I mean, of course, this is going to be being dropped in a couple of days, a day or so. But Scott Hall was this past Saturday. And coming up on November 21st, we have got former women's champion Candice Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Still a gorgeous woman, but talented athlete as well. So,
and for those of you out there who are men, she will be actually signing
all of our listeners except one.
Right.
She will be signing Playboy magazines.
Yes.
For that,
you may want to hide the mail day though when it gets there.
Yeah,
because that could be a problem.
None of them got women.
All right, if Aaron hasn't alienated you guys,
their mom ain't gonna be mad that shit showed up.
We're going to start Aaron's list first.
I got something I want to say.
Oh, all right.
Go right ahead.
I want to put a personal thank you out there because we haven't had a show since it ended, to all the people that participated and voted and had a good time in the Dream Tag Team Tournament on the We Can't Wrestle podcast Facebook page. Archie won it with the Brain Busters, and then who won the raffle after you graciously gave your shit away?
I gave my shit away. It should be here tomorrow according to tracking, and I'm going to add some more free shit into that box as well, and it will be shipped to Bobby Anders.
Congratulations.
Mine and all of us. But then, because I was just feeling like, hey, the hell with it, let's give some more free shit away, I did a second click, and John Perry won that and is going to get a mini mystery prize from me as well. So
that's cool. And I also want to make a big announcement. I shouldn't say big announcement. An announcement that November's crazy for me because I'm a retailer, so I'm not going to do it during November. But in December, we're going to kick off another tournament, and it's going to be United States champions. So basically, whether it can be WCW United States champions, WWF, or WWE United States champions, whoever held the United States championship, you get to pick that person and go.
Can I call dibs on who I'd like for that tournament?
No.
Right now? I want to call dibs.
Okay. Archie's calling dibs. It's like the first person that enters the Royal Rumble every year.
Right. I am calling dibs on Ravishing Rick Rude.
All right. I'll write that down.
And guaranteed when Aaron announces this and somebody says, I want Rick Rude, but no, Archie already claimed him back in November 7th.
Aaron will be like, if you listen to the fucking show, you would know.
Right. That just proves you don't listen to the show, so now you don't even get to be in the tournament.
Yeah.
But yes, those are the things. If you're not a member of our Facebook group, because we have a lot of people that are, and I say this a lot, but there are a lot of you that listen to the show. We have a ton of people that like the Facebook page.
Right.
But you're not a member of the group.
Join
It's a public group. Join it. I mean, it costs you nothing, and we give away free shit.
Look,
between Aaron's tournaments and Archie's contests, and We Can't Shuffle, and I mean, there's always something going on, conversations. Every once in a while, I'll just randomly want to talk to you guys and be like, all right, it's discussion time.
That's what I was going to say. Even if there's not a contest for free shit going on, guys, there is enough content in what Aaron posts, what I post, what Nate posts, what Kyle posts, what the members post, that will keep you laughing for hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is all about in this community. We want to make friends and laugh. We don't, it's not, the world outside is crazy right now. So if you can have an escape by coming onto a Facebook page and just reading for an hour and getting caught in that rabbit hole, and getting, oh God, I got to see this post now. Oh, what did Nate say? Oh, that's funny.
Right.
Why not do it?
Mm-hmm.
You're liking the page anyway, so why not at least see what you're liking?
Exactly. So this top 5 we're going to do right now is, again, like I said, top 5 pro wrestling entrance themes that weren't produced by a wrestling company, essentially. You're not going to hear us say Stone Cold Steve Austin's theme or, what have you. So Aaron gets to go first, but I want to mention one real quick, and it's not part of my top 5, but I wanted to mention
not be on my list.
I doubt it will be. Because this is one that isn't in my top 5, but for some reason, for years, I have found to be completely hilarious. One of those early ECW shows, like we're talking about now, where they would have guys like Hanson or Kevin Sullivan or whoever just come in for, 2 shows or whatever. I remember watching one on YouTube years ago that didn't have the WWE music.
Right.
It actually had the original ECW stuff on it. I don't know if the guy had ripped a videotape or whatever, but anyway, guys, I cracked up.
Okay.
When Abdullah the Butcher came to the ring to Hypnotize by Notorious B.I.G. It was so funny to me. It's not in my top 5, but I just, when Aaron brought up the topic, I was like, boom, remember when Abby came out to Hypnotize? Oh my God, it was so funny.
There's like there's a fan video of the one time Scott Hall showed up at ECW, and he came out to Ready or Not by the Fugees, and I'm like, what the fuck? Of all songs?
Somebody just put a fucking tape in.
Right. Hey, Scott's about to go out. Oh, I got the perfect song. Don't worry about it. We got Abby coming up. Oh, he's got to have Notorious B.I.G.
All right, Aaron, start us off.
All right. I'm starting off with, I'm going to pick my number 1, but I'm pretty sure it's on everybody's list, so I'm sorry, guys. But I try to, like, not pick something or some stuff that might be on everybody else's list. Okay. But I want to be the one to say it because it was my idea for this list, and it's Hollywood Hogan, Voodoo Child.
Not on my list.
Not on my list.
What? How is that not on you guys' list? That is the best non-wrestling produced theme for anybody that ever came out to anything.
I agree.
It's
but
fucking
it's not
perfect.
a song I think about all the time.
Listen to this. Well, I stand up next to a mountain. I chop it down with the edge of my hand. Well, I stand up next to a mountain. I chop it down with the edge of my hand. Well, I pick up all the pieces and make an island. Might even raise a little sand, because I'm a voodoo child. Lord knows I'm a voodoo child. I don't mean to take up a lot of your sweet time. I'll give it back to you one of these days. I don't mean to take up a lot of your sweet time. I'll give it back to you one of these days. I'll give it right back to you one of these days. And if I don't meet you no more in this world, then I'll meet you in the next one, and don't be late. That's fucking Hulk Hogan. I'm sorry. It's fucking great.
It's a bad song. I'm not saying it's a bad song. I'm not denying it's great.
And watching Hogan play that fucking the belt like a guitar, and fucking Bischoff flying around on like a plane and all that shit. It's like, this is gold. It's fucking gold.
Hogan played a sweet air guitar, but LaParca was the true air guitar artist in WCW.
That's fine, but like I'll even say this. When I think of like Real American was great, but that was a WWF produced
right. But when the guitar riff started, you automatically jumped up. I get what you're saying.
But when I think of Hulk Hogan, I honestly think of Voodoo Child before I think of Real American. I really do, and it's because that changed everything.
You're right.
Everything. Mm-hmm. Like people talk about and I don't want to get off on like a big tangent or whatever. They're like, oh, Steve Austin brought in the Attitude Era, and The Rock brought it. Hulk Hogan turning fucking heel brought in the goddamn.
What caused the Attitude Era, right?
Hulk Hogan created the Attitude Era. Mm-hmm. Really did.
Well, Paul Heyman did, but Hogan personified it.
Hogan made the WWF go, fuck, we need to do something.
Right.
And Aaron's heard me say this before, and I'm not trying to get off of Voodoo Child, but it made me think about it. And I don't know if Archie's ever heard me say this before. But Archie, as far as Hulk Hogan themes go, I have always said, I wish that when he came back to WWE in 2002...
They paid for Voodoo Child?
No.
What?
There's a different song I wish they would have paid for.
Not American Made.
No.
Oh.
Forgot About Dre.
Oh, my God.
Because, that's when I hear that song, I'm like, I mean, obviously, it's one of my favorite hip-hop songs, but I'm just like, because Hogan came back and he was so over it. It's like these motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre.
Can you imagine if when he fought The Rock at WrestleMania 18, they would have gotten Dr. Dre to sing him to the ring? With a boa on and the Hogan sunglasses. And
fuck wrestling, you can have it back.
Right.
All right, sorry, Aaron. I didn't want to. It's just
that's
talking
fine.
about Hogan made me think about that.
And I promise that's the only lyrics of any song I'm going to read.
You sang it well, though. I liked it. You sang it well.
But, so anybody else got anything on that? Greatest goddamn non-wrestling produced theme ever.
No, I like it. It was not something I thought of offhand when I was putting my list together. It always eclipsed my mind until I hear it played and I go, fuck, Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean?
And the next four are super random, so you guys might not have a lot to say about them. But the next one on my list is the Road Warriors coming out to Iron Man.
Good one.
Badass.
Very good.
Like, that is it's fucking perfect, and it's like the and then those guys standing at the entrance with their arms up, and I'm doing visual shit like people can see us, but just them just standing there and it's like and like them just running into the fucking ring and like Hawk like flexing his neck and breaking the goddamn collar off. It's like, I know wrestling's, I shouldn't say fake, but I know wrestling isn't real. But if I'm a goddamn jobber or anybody and that fucking shit hits and those guys come out and then Hawk looks at me and goes, oh, and the fucking thing breaks off, I'm like, I'm about to get fucked up.
Right. These guys don't know how to take it easy.
Yeah, I'm gonna tap now.
These Mohawks about to whoop my ass.
Yeah, it's like, and it just fucking worked. And I watched a thing recently on YouTube from a WWF show they did in Japan, and the natural disasters fight LOD on this WWF show, and it's fucking awesome.
Was it one of those SWS?
Yeah,
things? Yeah.
But it's fucking awesome because it's in a WWF ring and all that, but it's in Japan, so like and I don't want to get off on like a weird thing or whatever, but like they call Earthquake John Tenta because John Tenta was John Tenta in Japan. And then they're going to fight the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, which is they usually call them the Road Warriors Legion of Doom, but they call them Road Warriors Legion of Doom. And it's like the only time that in the WWF that you see the Legion of Doom come out, they actually come out to Iron Man. And it's fucking great. It's a perfect goddamn theme for
It is. It matched them perfectly.
Absolutely.
And it's lost in time. People aren't going to see it now unless they look up
YouTube
unless they look up obscure NWA shit on YouTube instead of watching it on the network. They're never going to see it. But it adds to their fucking mystique, I think.
Yes.
Like, because the Road Warriors weren't the greatest in ring. They weren't the greatest in ring people. Animal was really good, and Hawk was really good, but they weren't the greatest in ring tag team in the world.
They
but
were
it was like their mystique. And that Iron Man theme added to it.
Right.
I've always said they weren't. To me, they're not the greatest tag team of all time, but they're the greatest tag team attraction of all time.
Right. Yeah.
You'd never say
the giant of tag team.
Yeah, so I was about to say you'd never say Andre was a great wrestler,
right?
But he was a great attraction.
So, anything else on that?
Nope.
We're good.
Okay. The next one on my list, I'll get the really obscure one out of the way that you guys probably aren't going to have anything to say about. But you guys know the song "Frankenstein" by Edgar White?
Yes.
Or Edgar Winter, sorry.
I believe so.
Yeah. The fucking Heavenly Bodies in Smoky Mountain Wrestling come out to that.
Yes,
It's
they
Dr.
do. You're
Tom
right.
and Stan Lane with Jim Cornette, and I fucking love it.
Yes.
It's an entire instrumental song, but those three guys coming out to that for some reason. Every time I hear it, I'm like, fucking hey, this is great.
I have a Smoky Mountain theme on mine too, so I've got a nice obscure one.
There was like a brief time too where, and it's funny I said brief time, where they played Time by Pink Floyd when Cornette would come out. Mm-hmm. It was like the ding, 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 like the tick, tock, tick, tock, ding, ding, ding. And Cornette would come out, and that would go, and then he'd be like, Dr. Tom. Like, and then he'd do his Sweet Stan, like, and then the Heavenly Bodies would come out, and it was just like, I was like, yeah, that's fucking badass, man. I'm glad you guys saw that. That's fucking great.
You know what's another humorous one? It's not on my list. You made me think. You jogged my mind. You know what's really funny? When Hollywood Bob Holly comes out to Fame.
Hey. Yeah.
Watching him with his mustache coming out to Fame by David Bowie.
And his big mullet. And there's one fucking promo where he's basically like, he just flat out, he doesn't say it this way, but basically says he fucked Julia Roberts. So
Yeah.
shit, what's going on? He ain't getting out with Julia Roberts.
You didn't even know a chick named Julie Roberts. All right, go ahead, Aaron.
All right. The next one on my list, and it's funny because it got brought up at the beginning of the show, and the Blackhearts came out to it. Huh?
Oh.
No, the Blackhearts came out to it. It's Perfect Strangers, Shane Douglas, and ECW.
That is on my list as well.
It's also on my
And
list.
then it was also de facto the theme of the Triple Threat.
Yes.
Fucking perfect.
That song personifies Shane Douglas so much. That's why when I heard the Blackhearts coming out to it, I immediately went, wait, what?
Yeah.
And somebody else used this?
And that's what I was going to say. It is the way that you can tell that song, and that's actually I actually ranked mine 5 through 1, and it was number 1 on my list. And the reason being because that is a song where if you're a wrestling fan and you hear that song on the radio, you don't think it's Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple.
Right.
You think, oh, that's Shane Douglas's entrance theme.
That little guitar riff, that dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun,
Yeah.
dun-dun, it's like you imagine Shane getting on the second rope and holding up his arms or the belt, and it's like you picture him in all his glory.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think of Deep
know?
Purple. You don't think of
Right.
Balky.
I got news for you guys. For like the first 4 years, for the first 4 years of me being an ECW fan, I didn't know that the song was by Deep Purple. I just knew it as the Triple Threat song.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it took me to I think I was 14. My uncle came over and he heard me playing it in my room. He's like, "What the fuck you doing listening to Deep Purple? That's my music." I'm like, well, "It's the Triple Threat theme." He's like, "No, it's not." He's like, "What the fuck's a Triple Threat?" I'm like, "Okay,
what the fuck's a Deep Purple?"
Yeah, you know.
But yes, definitely.
It's kind of like a Pringle Dingle. Since you guys said, "Oh, this isn't on my list. This is on my list," can I say one that almost made my list but didn't put on my list? It's another ECW theme. It's funny because it's like a wrestler. It's not one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. And I think he's kind of overrated. And then it's like my only song that I like from this band.
Okay.
And it's Taz in ECW, and he came out to War Machine by Kiss.
Yep.
War Machine is the only song that Kiss has ever produced that I like.
Okay.
Everything else Kiss ever did sucks. It's terrible, and nobody will ever tell me anything different. But the and Taz coming out to that, fucking brilliant.
If I let you.
Yeah, and earlier, like, he used it, and then, like, ECW took it and, like, made their own little version of it.
Right.
But Taz coming out to War Machine was awesome.
Oh, it was. I agree. Better than his WWE theme.
Oh, yeah. And it almost made my list. But the last one on my list is, and it's silly, but it
Is it Rockin' Robin?
no, it's not Rockin' Robin. But Rockin' is in the title.
Okay.
It's Rock and Roll is King by ELO, Rock and Roll Express.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can honestly say that I have no problem with that because I think we all like the Rock and Roll Express. So
Well, and that's another song that when I hear that song, I don't think of what the song is. I think that's the Rock and Roll Express song.
Yeah.
So
And-
you
right.
And the reason not the only reason I put it on my list, but it's just it works perfect to me.
Mm-hmm. All right, Archie. What is your? Let's get to Archie's list here.
All right. Well, number 5 on my list is Raven's theme song from ECW. keep them separated.
Keep them separated by the offspring.
Yes.
Come out and play.
I'll be honest with you. Raven is, I wouldn't put him in my top 5, but he's definitely in my top 10 of one of the best ring psychologists I've ever seen. And the song matched him perfectly.
Oh, absolutely perfectly. And definitely, again, like you said, one of the great psychologists, one of the great promos. Yeah. And that gimmick at its time was revolutionary.
And it saved him.
Yeah, it did.
From Johnny Polo to Raven.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got a little bit of respect in WWE, but not much by becoming hardcore champion a few times. But then went on to become an NWA champion too. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that song, and I think TNA and the NWA used that song for him in TNA too. So that shows you how iconic it is that he had to go back and get it for the later part of his career.
Yeah, well, and again, definitely it identifies it. It's that counterculture. At that time, Offspring was a counterculture band,
right?
And it was a counterculture message. And yeah, I mean, an awesome theme.
And this is important in themes of wrestling or whatever, and it might sound silly, but it has an identifiable,
right, catchy
riff, like an identifiable beginning. Like, okay, it's like I said with like the Iron Man thing, like, when you hear, it's like, okay, I know what's happening now. Now when you hear, it's like, oh, fucking Raven's coming out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Aaron took Shane Douglas's theme, Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple, but that was my number 2 on my list. My number 4 is Stone Cold Steve Austin's theme made by The Disturbed, Glass Shatters.
Mm-hmm.
It was on one of the WWE music CDs. And see, the way I went with my list was songs that I still listen to today and I have on my playlist. And this is a song that, it's The Disturbed, but when you hear the glass shatter and then hear the way the song plays, it's Austin through and through. And I don't know how he didn't use that for the remainder of his career after, it debuted with it.
I think
is that the one he started using during the invasion?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Yes. That was the heel Austin entrance. And I think, Archie, to answer what you said there, I think the reason he didn't keep it is because if you ever notice, once a guy's done,
right,
especially in WWE, once he's done wrestling, it's like they reset him back to whatever his most popular entrance was, whatever his most popular gimmick was, like whatever you were most known for and whatever music you were,
Right.
Scott Hall went into the Hall of Fame as Razor Ramon, not as Scott Hall. So,
poor guy was supposed to go in
this
year.
I was just gonna say I don't know if it's true, but Scott wanted to go in as Razor. What I heard.
Well, right, but he was supposed to go in this year as Razor Ramon as Scott Hall with the NWO, and then COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
well, but yes, definitely that Austin theme. I mean, you hear that song and it gets you hyped up.
Yeah,
definitely.
Number 3 on my list. Again from the WWE Attitude Era, and everything with Chris Jericho's "King of My World" by Saliva.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, I can identify with that. However, the reason that one wouldn't make my list is I don't like that song because I don't like Saliva.
Well, I get that. I understand. It's not a great band, but they have a couple of good songs.
Mm-hmm.
Batista's entrance again being another one. Walk the Line.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Greatest Show on Earth, which was a WrestleMania theme.
Yeah.
But the song personified Jericho again because it was about him. I break down the walls. And then they even said his name during the song too.
Well, that and Jericho, and that's why I said I identify with why you'd say that, because if you listen to the main lyric of the song, it's not even it's the lyric is egocentric in and of itself.
Right.
It's not, I'm the king of the world. I'm the king of my world. Yes.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely.
And I struggled with a couple of songs making this list. Of course, New Jack Steen, California Love in ECW, great song, Tupac and Dr. Dre, and Chris Jericho's Fozzy theme in AEW, Judas, which the whole world sings. Even if you don't like Chris Jericho, you're still singing Judas. But my number one song is a song that I knew before he ever entered to it. When he returned and this song started playing, I popped because I went, oh my God, I know this song. Oh my God. It's Living Color. It's Cult of Personality.
Yes.
Out walks CM Punk. And I went, wait a minute. So one of my favorite songs is coming out to one of my favorite guys? One of my favorite guys is coming out to one of my favorite. I'm like, yes. And it just, he walked out with that shit-eating grin. And the song played, and I went, I will forever remember this song as CM Punk.
I remember when he came out to that in WWE thinking, God damn, they must really be invested in this guy.
Right.
To pay for this song.
Right.
You know, to get this gimmick over or what have you. Like, I thought at that point, hey, Vince has bought into CM Punk, man. If he was willing to pay for the rights to some song he doesn't own.
Right. And here's the thing. The song was semi-decent when it came out, and it got nostalgia play because of Rock Band or Guitar Hero. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now here comes CM Punk, and this song gets rejuvenated and becomes the number one song in the world because it's CM Punk's theme now.
Yeah.
You know, even the lead singer even said, we didn't intend this song to be a top 100 hit. We like making music. But thanks for playing it because people love us now.
Thank you, CM Punk.
Right. So.
Any comments on any of that, Aaron?
I thought the CM Punk song was really good. He's not my favorite guy in the world, but yeah, I mean, it works for his character.
Right.
Well, Archie, I think you had a good list, buddy.
Thank you. Aaron's was better, though, and I agree. I understand.
Mine will probably be the least favorite of the listeners. Of course, I said Perfect Strangers, even though a lot of the time I'm not a huge Shane Douglas fan. Again, that song to me epitomizes when I hear that song, it's Shane Douglas's theme. It's not even the Deep Purple song. It's number one on my list. So I'll start back at number 5. And this is a Smoky Mountain deal. It is, and I'm probably partial to this because I really like The Wrestler, but these guys are also one of my favorite bands.
Okay.
It is Chris Candido and Smoky Mountain coming out to INXS Suicide Blonde.
Good song. And one of my favorite wrestlers, Chris Candido.
And that one kind of, I guess for me, is more of a nostalgia thing just because, like I said, I really love The Wrestler and I really love the band.
Oh, yeah.
And it fits his gimmick perfectly, you know, like at that time. And so...
Well, I agree with you. That was definitely a great song for him. And I know you sometimes detest the no gimmicks needed
gimmick.
But when he came out to Back in Black in ECW and used to do that little strut on the ring apron,
it
was like he was the best shit-eating heel he could have been at that moment, but yet he was getting over as a face too.
I love Candido, man. Oh, yeah. Like I said, I mean, I know I crap on the no gimmicks needed gimmick.
No, but
that's in no way an indictment of Candido at all. Candido was great.
Not at all. I love every minute of his career, though. I could even say I loved Skip of the Body Donnas because Chris pulled it off.
Well, and Candido and Dr. Tom were a fucking great tag team,
Definitely.
Man. You know, gimmick or not, they were a great tag team.
They're you could also say what I just said about, well, not just said about, but earlier said about Shane and Johnny Ace. Like, if it wouldn't have had that gimmick on it,
Mm-hmm.
Pringle had more legs.
Right. If they would have just let them come out as Chris Candido and Tom Pritchard, they would have ripped shit up.
Yeah.
You know?
Can I add something to the... Because I'm actually kind of happy that somebody else has brought up some Smoky Mountain shit.
Mm-hmm.
Add one more Smoky Mountain theme.
Mm-hmm.
Go right ahead.
It's Rod Fuller and Jimmy Golden come out to Hard to Handle by Black Crows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good choice. Good choice.
They're an underrated tag team, too. If I could have picked a team in the tournament, I would have picked them.
My number 4 is, we talked earlier about, Aaron, you talked about thinking about Hulk Hogan, and you think about Voodoo Child, or you think about LOD, Road Warriors, and you think about Iron Man, or we think about CM Punk, and we think about Cult of Personality. That's his song.
Right.
I mean, you got to do, if you're identifying somebody, how about Metalingus by Alter Bridge as the entrance theme for Edge?
Yep.
That's one of my favorites, man. I love that song, and Edge embraced that song as his entrance theme.
Oh,
too.
the way that he ran out from the smoke and would pump up his knees so he could jump higher. And
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, here's the thing: that song has made me pop twice for Edge. Once when he returned at the Royal Rumble a few years ago from injury, when he surprised Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
Because it hit at number 29 and was like, yes, he's back. But then just this past year at the Royal Rumble, again, when I heard the You Think You Know Me and then the song started, that song is everything at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody knew it was Edge, and nobody knew, is he back or is he about to come out with somebody else?
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a non-WWF song or WWE song.
At first, I didn't know that either.
No,
right?
it's if you listen to album rock stations, they play that song on album rock stations. It's an Alter Bridge single. I mean, I don't know for
I don't
sure.
I don't want to say like, oh, I thought it was a WWE produced song or whatever, but
Right.
I didn't know it was like a song they put on an album.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I thought that was just something that WWE commissioned them to write this song for Edge, and that was
That's
just
the
an Edge
best
song.
part
you know?
about certain music that wrestlers use. When you finally hear it on the radio for the first time and you go, wait, this is real? This isn't just entrance music? I don't have to be embarrassed about listening to it? That makes it all the more better.
Like, that's what, like one day I was just driving in the car, okay, and the Miz's music came on the Bear.
Yeah.
On the Miz's song, you know, I'm like, okay, I
Well,
didn't know that.
those guys are from Fort Wayne. They're actually from Fort Wayne, the band that sings that tune.
Yeah.
So next on my list, and this, honest to God, this would have been on my list regardless of what has happened the past couple of weeks or not, because I do love it, and it is, to me, one of the most. This one I say is one of the most fun entrance themes in wrestling. And it is the Entrance remix of Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees for the FBI.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Man, when to see Tracy Smothers and JT Smith and Tommy Rich come out and it's like, everybody get busy on the dance floor.
Little Guido.
It's great, man. It's fun.
Tracy Smothers in one corner doing a little shuffle. Tommy Rich
Yeah.
is doing the Stayin' Alive dance in the other.
And again, this has nothing to do with God rest his soul. Rest in peace, Tracy Smothers.
Rest in
We
peace,
talked about it
Tracy.
in detail on the 2300 pod, and I even made that the intro for that edition of the 2300 pod with that song. But yeah, whether Tracy passed last week or the week before or not,
it was a great song.
And the reason you know it works is Nate and I talked about meeting Tracy Smothers and an autograph signing and all that. Nate and I got the privilege of seeing Tracy Smothers perform live.
Mm-hmm.
He did like the Smothers family gimmick, but they still came out to that.
Yeah,
like Tracy knows this is the jam.
This is my jam, man. But yeah, like that. That's one of those things like Eddie Guerrero in wrestling. when I think of that act and I think of that song, it makes me smile. So that's why I put it on my list. I love that shit. So again, Perfect Strangers was number 1. But my number 2 is the song Natural Born Killers by Dre and Cube for New Jack.
See, now I had it as California Love. That was his later theme.
Yeah, he used California
Love. I forgot
Love.
about Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, You watch some of those ECW shows, man. That song plays not only through the whole song, but maybe twice through the song as Jack is stapling dollar bills to some fat guy's head or whatever. But when you heard that song in ECW, you knew the shit was on.
Oh yeah.
Like there was going to be at least 5 to 10 minutes of extreme shit going on.
And the best thing about it was like, okay, it'd be Tommy Dreamer versus Raven, and in would pop in Blue Meanie and Stevie Richards. They'd be kicking Dreamer's butt. Here comes Sandman, but now, oh wait, here comes the Pitbulls or whoever. They're beating Sandman down, and then all of a sudden, Natural Born Killers would pop on.
And here comes
like,
and here's the thing, and I'm going to put this in a way, and I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. And those of you that, again, if you haven't watched ECW or you want to go back and watch ECW, you want to follow along with us on the 2300, I want to tell you that to me, it might come off comedic. I don't know if it will or not. I'm thinking of New Jack, all right? And I'm thinking of that entrance. I'm thinking of that song hitting, and I'm thinking of a bunch of people in the ring, a bunch of feuds going on. If there's one thing you can say about Jack, it's that when he came to the ring, he's one of those guys, what he was doing felt real.
Right.
And here's why I'll say that. Because half the time when Jack came to the ring, guys, it was like he went outside and jacked a shopping cart from the Aldi across the street.
Yep.
And put a bunch of, because Jack's just coming down the aisle with a fucking Aldi shopping cart with a bunch of shit in it, and he's going to cause some fucking chaos whether he's involved or not.
This will be out of complete left field, but I think I've made this statement before. New Jack was ECW Sting.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, the heels are being complete assholes, and they're just, ganging up on one guy. And then all of a sudden, Sting would drop down.
Right.
And all the heels were like, oh, fuck, Sting's here. I'm about to get my ass beat. But they'd be beating up Tommy Dreamer or Sandman or both of them, and then all of a sudden, the missile would go off, and the people were like, yeah! Like...
Yep.
Oh, that motherfucker's got a shopping cart.
he used to come out sometimes, Nate, with a big rubber trash can, and he would just fling it into the ring with all the weapons, and it would always hit somebody. And
well, yes, and that's what I'm saying. His gimmick.
They would try to no-sell it, donate, but they couldn't because of the force he would throw it into the ring.
Because he didn't give a fuck.
And they would just be like, oh, that hurt.
And his shit felt real because it was half real. It really did feel like New Jack, this dude, had just been out back and thrown all this shit in a garbage can.
Paulie, what do we got in the garbage? There's an old Nintendo and a cheese grater. Give me that shit.
Give me that shit.
I'm going to the ring. Give me that shit. We got any guitars?
I did not. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to say, one of my favorite things that New Jack ever said, they were interviewing about the hardcore stuff, and he said that, like, they were talking about, like, the hardcore stuff. It might have been that Oliver guy interviewing him or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's a good dude. Yeah. He interviews people really well. Was it Greg Oliver? Is that his name?
Greg? Yeah, Greg Oliver.
He was interviewing New Jack, and New Jack talking about the hardcore stuff and said that he felt that it was okay for him to be that way because he had already learned all the drop down, grab a head, flippy bullshit, and did it with the Rock and Roll Express. It's like, I know how to do wrestling.
Right.
So that gives me the right to be able to.
Well,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you followed New Jack's career, or a guy like Bulls Mahoney or Sandman, every now and then in a match, they'd pull off a drop toe hold or a snap mirror, and you'd be like, "Whoa, these guys actually know how to wrestle."
Oh yeah, he had the basics.
You
And I know, Aaron, you said he was like WCW or like ECW Sting, but in reality, and I get what you're saying, but in the totality of his career, he was his generation's Abdullah.
Right.
Because Abdullah was the same way. Like when Abdullah started, he fucking worked with shooters. You know what I mean? Like he learned from shooters and stuff. And yeah, over time, his gimmick evolved to him being a big fat ass that just walked around and forked people. But in reality, like if you look at early, if you can find anything early Abdullah, he really could go in the ring, when he was younger. And then he evolved into the Madman from the Sudan gimmick and all that. But yeah, the same with New Jack. He had the fundamentals. He was a professional wrestler, but he also realized what made him his money.
Right.
And what makes me money is stapling dollar bills to motherfuckers' heads or trying to kill Vic Grimes.
I was just about to say that. My only thing I don't agree with, and I can give two shits about the whole mass transit incident because that was that kid's fault. You don't walk up to a promoter and go, "Oh, I'm 21 and I've been wrestling for 4 years," and then go into a match with New Jack. Okay? You were 18 and you were not a wrestler for 4 years. You barely knew how to lock up. Okay? But the whole Vic Grimes incident, Vic didn't mean to hurt him. I think New Jack sometimes he went a little too hardcore.
Oh, New Jack's a fucking psycho. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Get to the ring and be like, "I'm going to do my shit." But then, like 20 minutes in, someone would piss him off, and he's like, "Now I'm going to cut a motherfucker."
When Jeremy Borash was interviewing New Jack about the fucking XPW Vic Grimes situation, it cracks me up when he's talking about it was because of the Danbury drop or whatever, and he's going to get his revenge on him. And then they show it, and fucking Grimes bounces off every table and hits the ropes, and then drops on the ground, and then even the XPW promoter's like, "All right, thank you guys for coming out.
Right.
I appreciate it. Like, this show is over. Like, whether or not, this guy's just like, all right, thanks, guys."
I will, however, say that the funniest thing New Jack ever said was, I hit him with a taser, and he's like, "Jack, I can't feel my legs." "Oh, don't worry, you're going to feel them in a second." I was like, what? What the fuck?
My favorite thing is Borash is like, "So was that the receipt for the Danbury drop?" And he's like, "That was the receipt. That was the register. That was the paper. That was the money in it." That was the whole goddamn
that was
thing,
everything,
man.
Right.
Well, everyone, it has been another great edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. I hope you all enjoyed our lists. Guys, you guys had some great lists, of course.
As did you, Nate.
Thank you. And
sorry about the feedback. I was trying to flip technology.
That'll never make the air. That's marked for edit.
Okay.
But that being said, I'll let Aaron. Aaron, do you have any parting words for our listeners this week?
Just thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it. And keep supporting the show and share it and let everybody know how fucking awesome we are.
Yes. Archie?
In the world that we live in and in this very scary society that we have around us, be nice to each other, be normal to each other, and be humble, because we're all human beings and we all deserve each other's respect. And no matter who got voted in as president, no matter who got what from whatever, it's not worth it at the end of the day to get yourself all riled up for nothing that you can control, that you can't control. This is a wrestling page. This is a wrestling lovers group, and we just want everybody to have fun and enjoy themselves. That's what life's about. So make sure you enjoy yourself.
Except if you park in the fire lane.
Right.
Or if you don't put your cart in the goddamn cart corral. Then you're an asshole. But other than that,
we're sending New Jack after you.
Or use your turn signal. Use your goddamn turn signal.
Right.
I don't know how many times I've been sitting like, oh man, I better sit here because this person's going to go straight. And then they just fucking turn. Like, you son of a bitch. I could have been to where I needed to be 2 minutes earlier. You fucking use a goddamn turn signal. It's the easiest goddamn thing to do in a car. It's right there by your left goddamn hand or whatever.
Can I ask you guys a quick question before we end?
Sure.
You ever have somebody cut you off just to turn? Like,
yes.
Not like turn like 2 miles up, but immediately turn. It's like, so that extra 30 seconds was going to keep you from turning? You had to jump in front of me and almost kill us both?
Yes. And I think even my wife would give that person permission to suck my balls.
Oh, God.
All right. Archie tried to make things go positive, but we ended hatefully. And that's okay.
It's fine. It's fine. Those women in that show were butt ugly.
No, you said God
ugly.
God ugly. You brought the Lord in there.
We want to thank you all for joining us on this edition, another great edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Thank you, Aaron and Archie, for being here with me, and we'll see you all next week.